Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable.
Oh, yeah.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable.
Banner 18.
J. King, Jam Pickett in the B-Roll.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Jay-Z White in the catalog.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The kids are legends to go.
Still Poddable, still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable.
Oh, yeah.
I just have to go to a bathroom.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the greatest Boston Celtics podcast ever. Today, it's just me, Jay King from The Athletic, going to be giving you a mailbag podcast. Got a bunch of listener mailbags, a lot of submissions from some of asking me personal stuff to asking me about Svi Mihailuk's video tribute. So it should be fun. This is the free episode on CLNS Network, brought to you by Game Time and Prize Picks. Use promo code CLNS to sign up there. If you want to subscribe to us, we're a Monday through Friday daily Celtics podcast. You can go to patreon.com/stillpoddable to get all of our content. We appreciate the CLS Network for bringing you this weekly free show. Hey, let's just get right into the mailbag. I was challenged by Packard to do this while drinking 6 beers during the recording of it, because he did that last week. I actually liked his show. I thought it was good. I thought he somehow managed to combine two of his favorite things, the Boston Celtics and drinking beer, and made it a good product. But that wasn't for me. I decided to decline his offer and bring this to you just without beer. Unfortunately, this will be a beerless podcast, but we got a lot of good questions, and I'm sure Packard, it was actually really good. So we're going to try to have him turn that into a semi-regular segment at least. So the first question is about my fantasy football skills. Ryan O'Leary, also known as O, who was in one of my fantasy football leagues, asked, why are you bad at fantasy football? Follow up, why did you waste draft dollars on an almost 30-year-old Calvin Ridley? I probably shouldn't have started with a fantasy football question, especially one that goes into my own fantasy football league. But Calvin Ridley's good. Calvin Ridley was a 1,000-yard receiver even while he was disappointing everybody else. Calvin Ridley is in a good situation. I think Will Levis likes to throw deep. Calvin Ridley likes to go deep. I think that was a good purchase. But our fantasy football league is a bunch of fantasy football freaks. They spend altogether way too much time thinking about fantasy football, reading about fantasy football, listening to podcasts about fantasy football. And I'm not as good as some of them. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you my record's good. Will I win the title this year? Yeah. Will I redeem myself for last year's failures? Absolutely. And Calvin Ridley will help me do it. So there were a lot of just pretty interesting questions. Here's one from our guy Josh B, who always has an interesting twist to his questions. Considering that the Mavericks lost the finals 4-1 and will have to live with that loss for the rest of his coaching life, I'm assuming he's talking about Jason Kidd here. Looking back on the JB-JT controversy, what additional evidence do you believe Jason Kidd would need to be presented with to know that he was wrong? So I think this is about Jason Kidd's recent comment saying he's not sure he was wrong when he said that Jalen was the best player on the Celtics. So Kidd has at least twice now said that he was not trying to divide the Celtics, that he was not playing head games with the Celtics. by calling Jalen the best player on the team during the finals. I'm not buying it. He can say it all he wants. Obviously, he has a personal bond with Jalen Brown. They both went to Cal. They both, are in charity endeavors together, and so that might be part of it. Also, Jalen was playing great at the time. He was absolutely playing great at the time. But I think he was absolutely trying to get in their heads. He knew that there was a big discrepancy between the two teams. After one game of the finals, it was more than enough to realize that the Celtics were just a much, much better team, that Luka was going to have problems, that the Mavericks supporting cast was going to have problems, that Kyrie was going to have problems. And no matter how much he denies it, Jason Kidd, he might take it to his grave saying that he really believed what he said about Jaylen Brown. But number one, it wasn't true. As good as Jalen was, Jason Tatum was better this past season. Jason Tatum was better in the playoffs, even though Jalen had incredible moments, had some incredible series, was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and the Finals MVP, guarded Luka, did all that stuff. But Tatum's better, and Jason Kidd only brought that up to try to divide the Celtics. There's no doubt in my mind. Josh B. Back. We'll go with a bunch of Josh B. questions here because he loves to populate these mailbags. He sprinkles them with questions, many of which have let's just say a Celtics favored tint on them. How many championships would these Celtics have to win consecutively before I would call them a dynasty? If they achieved that number of championships, would they be considered the dynasty? The King dynasty. So I think I'd say 3 in today's day and age. Like the last back-to-back championships was the Warriors with Kevin Durant, the first 2 years that they had him. The Warriors, I would say they're a dynasty. They've won 4. They were in the finals year after year after year. They won it with 3 different versions, basically, of their team. I'd give them the dynasty. The Celtics would probably have to get 3 in the next 5 or 6 years, at least 3. Anything less than that, not a dynasty. 2, no. But the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, I'd call that a dynasty. In the early 2000s, we can call that a dynasty. I think the Spurs, you can call them a dynasty. Maybe I'm being too flippant about my usage of that word. Maybe none of those teams deserve it. Maybe all those teams deserve it. But I think if you're constantly in the mix for a championship, if you're an absolutely dominant team for 3 years at least, then you get that title. You're a dynasty. So there aren't many of those. And the league has kind of, I think with the new CBA, gone to even prioritizing more parity. So we'll see how that impacts every team, especially the Celtics, given how much money they're going to cost, given new ownership is going to come in and maybe have to make some decisions financially. But if they get 3, that's a dynasty. Wow. So I had a men's league basketball game last night, and one of my teammates, Josh Burke, asked, should I be benched for the remainder of the men's league playoffs? It's a tough question. First of all, we won at the buzzer. My guy had a tip in. Kenny had a tip in, Derek White style, tip in basically at the buzzer to go ahead, win by 1 in a playoff game. I had multiple air balls. It was disgusting. I was ashamed. I still made a couple threes. But it was, Normally a good shooter. It was ugly. Do I think I should get benched the rest of the playoffs? No. Do do I like seeing the question in a forum where I feel forced to address it publicly? No. Will I make a bunch of threes next game? Yeah. Yeah. If you bench me, you'll miss out on the rush of threes coming. Also from Josh Burke, if your son grows up to hate basketball, will you still love him? Yes. Yes. He's sitting over there eating, drinking formula out of a bottle. And no matter what he does in life, I'm going to love that little kid. He is awesome. Anytime he's happy, he makes me happy. Anytime he's not, he makes me happy. Being a father is the coolest thing ever, the most rewarding thing ever. And yeah, I will still love him. Shane W asks, what's one sport you wish you were pro at besides basketball? So I've had this talk with kind of a debate with my brothers and one of my cousins for a long time. And I think the two answers that stand out to me are starting pitcher in baseball and a golfer, professional golfer. Golfers, you just go to every beautiful place on earth. You play golf on the weekends. You play a great sport. Sure, it's hard. Got to go to the range. Got to grind on your putting. Got to mentally train yourself to be at your best all the time. It's not guaranteed money, so you have to be pretty good. You have to stay relevant. You have to stay on top of your game. But you make a ton of money to go to beautiful places, different beautiful places, travel the world. That just sounds like a pretty awesome lifestyle. And then starting pitcher, you pitch one set of every 5 days. You get guaranteed money, unlike golf. Tons of guaranteed money if you're at all good. And so that would be like lifestyle-wise my two choices. I think I would choose golf. At this stage of my life, I love golf. If I had played baseball, I was a solid catcher and pitcher back in the day. But I feel like golf's the way to go. It's a different lifestyle. You're traveling everywhere. Like, just seems like it'd be a lot of fun. And you see the same people every weekend, hanging out with all the golfers. Just seems like the life. I don't know how many tournaments you play in, but it's not even close to 52 a year. So you got a lot of free time. And I know you're spending your time working on your game and stuff, but give me golf. Give me that lifestyle.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50. It's just a bonus, a guaranteed bonus. Sign up for Prize Picks. It's a lot of fun, especially with the football season starting off. There's going to be so many different games and for you to pick on, for you to play. You can even make preseason football that more exciting. Will Drake May play more than one series? I don't know if you can actually do that on Prize Picks, but you can do a whole bunch of other Drake May stats or other Patriots. So today, go to Prize Pick, get the Prize Picks app, and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
Let's get back to the Celtics a little bit. Matt asks, with Kristaps Porzingis out for several months, will the C's divide his minutes among the 3 backup bigs? Yes. Yeah. First of all, yes. I assume they will. I assume that Luke Cornett and Xavier Tillman will probably get the first cracks at those minutes. Obviously, you're going to give some of them to Al Horford. Al Horford can play with either of those guys, I think, assuming age doesn't tear him down next season, which I don't think it will because he always stays in elite shape and hasn't shown too much slippage yet. But I think those two guys get the first crack. I don't think they should give Horford too many of those minutes. Just keep him fresh. Just keep him ready for the playoffs. If you have to sacrifice wins while Porzingis is out, fine. That's okay. And then the other layer to this that I think could impact how Missoula approaches it is whether Baylor Shireman or maybe Jordan Walsh is ready for minutes right away. Then you can go smaller. Then you can just play, Al Horford at center and Luke Cornett as a backup and be okay with that. And then if Shireman deserves to play, he was a great defensive rebounder in college. Maybe you can play him at 4. If not, you could play him at 3 next to Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Probably have enough size out there. That all is based on whether Baylor Shireman is good. That's it. Like, he'd have to be good. I think he might be. He's Brad Stevens' first-round draft pick. He can really shoot. He knows how to play. Seems to process the game at a high level. Will the game be too fast for him? I don't know. It's possible. It's definitely possible that the game will be too fast for him. But we'll see. But it all depends whether the determination of whether to kind of go bigger, play all those guys, or play smaller a little bit, let Shireman or Jordan Walsh get some of those minutes. All comes down to whether those two guys are ready, whether one of those guys are ready. And I can't promise you that they will be, but there's a chance. There's definitely a chance. All right. So Baylor Shireman over under 700 regular season minutes. Also from Josh Burke. 700. So that would be if he played 70 games, 10 minutes a game. He'd have to crack into the regular rotation, sort of. 700 is enough. Like, you don't just luck into that. You have to play semi-consistent minutes. You have to be part of the rotation probably most nights. I'd go under just because there's not really a lot of room in that rotation. You're already bringing Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser off the bench. You're already bringing, Al Horford when you're healthy off the bench. You're not going to be healthy the whole season, obviously, but you can still just plug Luke Cornett there. The bench was really good. You can play just 8 guys most nights. So I'd go under 700 minutes. It's a good number, though. And if he's good enough to kind of break into that rotation to take some of the minutes that Porzingis vacates while he's injured, then he could go over. I'm just looking at past minute totals. So Jaylen Brown, his rookie year, was a number 3 pick, obviously, but came into a pretty stacked roster. He averaged 17 minutes per game, played 78 games, and played 1,341 minutes. So that's twice what you'd be asking. But he played almost every game, and I don't think Shireman will. I think Celtics roster is just has too many established guys. Maybe he can step in there. Maybe he will be more ready than the average rookie. Maybe they'll just decide, we got to play this kid. But I think more likely it's going to take a little bit of time. He'll, try to gain Joe Mazzulla's trust this year. And maybe once they do have to make financial decisions down the line, then Shireman steps in and is more a part of the rotation then. That would just be my guess here. I don't know exactly if that's will be how it goes. Obviously, a lot goes into that, including how healthy the Celtics are. Do they rest regulars more often? Do they kind of, play the long game? Do they pace themselves knowing that they can win on the road, knowing that they don't have to win 64 games again? I think all of that stuff is possible, and maybe then there's a path for Shireman to play consistent minutes. I just can't see too many minutes opening up there, just because the Celtics do have so many established players, so many guys who are just kind of promised, I think, a spot in the rotation. For reference sake, O'Shea Brissett played 630 minutes this past season. So I think he probably steps into the O'Shea Brissett role. And if he plays exactly that, he'll go under 700 minutes. My buddy and I invented Gambling Grant Grasha asked, my buddy and I invented a 2K drinking game in college that usually resulted in us finishing 4 to 6 beers with losers shotgunning a beer. What were your favorite college drinking games? Good question. Love that you were just playing 2K drinking games. Classic. We used to play just play beer pong, but we would play with full beers in every cup, or we would play one-on-one. And we were sickos, but we would put I forget how many there were. So if normally there's 10, we would add another row. We would add like 2 or 3 rows, and eventually you'd have like 20 something cups of beer to finish. And we always had beer in the cups. We never had water in the cups back then. I think it's probably safer, more sanitary to add water to it, but we never did back then. It was always beer in the cup. And also beer dice. Beer dice was great. I used to go visit my best friend at Brandeis, and they would have a beer dice tournament. Beer dice was a lot of fun because there's some athleticism involved in beer dice. You have to make diving plays. You can really have highlights. We used to say there were web gems back in the ESPN web gem days. I was obviously an absolutely elite beer pong player, probably even more elite at beer dice. So good question though. College drinking games. Don't play them anymore, but when I did, those are good times. Those are fun times. On a scale of 1 to 10, also from Grant, how hard will the Celtics try at winning the NBA Cup? If they win the Cup and championship next year, does that make them one of the greatest teams ever? So if they do establish themselves as one of the greatest teams ever, it will have nothing to do with the NBA Cup. The NBA Cup is something they just it doesn't have tradition yet. It doesn't matter yet. I think teams wanted to win it last year. I think, teams gave a little extra effort. You obviously saw the Celtics hack Andre Drummond to try to get the point differential in their favor. The Pacers kind of showed a little glimpse of who they could be in the NBA Cup, and that it was just kind of foreshadowed their run to the Eastern Conference Finals. But the Cup is still not tradition. If you hear my child screaming, crying, that's okay. He's okay. Don't worry about it. Sorry about that, but he's a little legend. Sometimes babies get upset a little bit. He's usually super happy though, the sweetest kid. But anyway, if they do establish themselves as one of the greatest teams ever, it would be by having another regular season like they just did. They won 64 games. They absolutely just rolled over all of the competition. They had 3 50-point wins. They lost just 3 games in the playoffs, just rolled through everybody. If they do that again, if they repeat and do it in such dominant fashion, you'll have to just kind of take a step back, look at what they've done, evaluate them for what they've done, and realize that this is a historic team. I don't think they're there yet, as much as last season was like a historic year. There are still questions, like they really didn't have a tough run through the playoffs. And I'm not knocking them for it. They crushed everybody that they should have. They had, even though the Indiana series was kind of close, they made every big play in that series. They were clutch. They won close games. They won blowouts. They dominated everybody. They made Luka Doncic look as bad as he's probably ever looked, especially on defense. They limited Kyrie offensively, defensively. They were a juggernaut. But you have the questions about the competition. I don't want to say they only won 64 games, but to really put yourself in like historic, even though the net rating was fantastic, the net rating showed, and net rating typically is, more indicative of future success than wins themselves. But I feel like you got to get closer to 70. You remember the 73 wins from the Warriors, even though they didn't win a title. But if the Celtics have another year like they did this year, then that's a historic team. You can't deny them anymore. You can't. I think you can right now. I think there are ways to point out not flaws, because they were not a flawed team. They were great offensively. They were great defensively. They could go down low and kill you. They could go outside and kill you. They could drive by you. They could beat you with defense. They could shut you down, beat you up, everything. But there are ways there will be ways to question them if they don't come back and have another great year. I think even if they don't win a title, you can come away from this and say, last season's team was one of the best in Celtics franchise history, which makes them, a truly historic team. But to me, like, you just got to do it again to underline it and kind of prove, not that last year wasn't a fluke, because it wasn't a fluke, but just give more supporting evidence so that people trust everything that they did. Because you look at on paper last season was just remarkable. They were fantastic. And I think that do it again, and no matter if the NBA Cup is involved or not, then they will go down as one of the best teams in a long time.
Football season is back, and it is your opportunity to get in on the action with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks makes it easier to save on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. Any tickets that you want, you can get through the Game Time app. They have all-in pricing. This feature allows you to show the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, panoramic views from the seat in the app before you buy. That comes with a lowest price guarantee, or if not, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And then Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
If I have ever been able to dunk, at what age did I first dunk, any memorable memories? If so, I wish I had memorable memories of dunking. I could barely dunk. Never dunked in a game. Never dunked on anyone. I did get dunked on. I think Jeff Adrian dunked on me once. That was probably the biggest name to do it. I didn't get dunked on a lot in my life. But I think as I remember, I was guarding a 2-on-1 fast break and jumped up to try to deflect a pass that was behind me. As I looked up, there was Jeff Adrian just cramming on me. Obviously, he played in the NBA. Obviously, he went to UConn. He was a lot more physically gifted than I was. And that was one of those guys that I played, and I was like, yep, I'm never going to go pro in this game. Did I ever go to Summer League when it was held in Boston? No. Obviously, I wish I had. I've been to Summer League a lot in Vegas. I've been in Orlando. I've been in Utah. But I was in like high school, I think, the last time it was played there. I should have gone when LeBron was there. Probably a mistake that I didn't go when LeBron was there. That was probably an epic time. Marcus Banks was there too for Celtics fans. So, yeah, I kind of regret not going there. I think when I was that age, I would have had the greatest time ever. Paul Dumond, is the Olympic Games so different than the NBA? Having a good performance in the Olympic is a good predictor to success for the NBA for Yabusele. The Olympic game is very different. There's just like the rules are different. The physicality that's allowed is different. You have to play with different guys. You have to. It's just different. FIBA game is different. So I don't know if it's direct correlation. But that said, Yabusele has clearly come a long way since he was on the Celtics. He can guard. He was named the Dancing Bear for a reason. He's 6'7", 280 pounds, whatever he is, and he can really move his feet. And that now translates to being able to stay in front of people, have defensive versatility. He's developed a better three-point shot, probably is in a totally different place mentally just because he's grown up a little bit, gotten older. So I wouldn't be surprised if he helps the 76ers. They kind of needed a power forward too. If you look at it, like their starting lineup is probably going to be Maxey, George, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, and Joel Embiid. There's not a power forward there. There's just not. So they needed someone with that physicality, that strength. And Yabu has that. Will he be a good NBA player now? I'm not ready to say that. But it's promising the way that he played in the Olympics. And he's like clearly he's gotten to a point physically, mentally, everything that he was never at in Boston. And the fact that Philly went after him, wanted to work on his buyout, and bring him in, I think is a sign that they're pretty excited about what he can add to their rotation. They're kind of piecing together things after spending most of their resources, obviously, to go get Paul George, which is a huge addition. But I think Yabu is a good pick there, good pickup. But again, I don't know how much he'll help them. I don't know if he's good enough offensively. Don't know if he can be exploited defensively. I guess we'll see. We'll see soon. But NBA is a very different game. What was your favorite part? Kay Burke asks, what was your favorite part about being 49 years old? And what are you looking forward to most about being 50 years old? Just guessing the age based on general temperament. Please correct if wrong. I just turned 37 today. It's my birthday. And not 49. It's not my fault that I just am willing to call out BS, and that I am willing to stand up for what's wrong. Can I be a bit crotchety? Probably. Can I be grumpy? Probably. But also show me some respect. I'm not 49. I'm not 50. I'm now 37, though. And hopefully I'll be better at men's league next week than I was this week. Matthew Edwards asks, what would it take to get this podcast public again? So I wish it could be public again. But there are issues with that. So my contract, and I don't know about B-Rob's place, but I can't like sign with another company to do podcasts, or like I can't just go sign with somebody else and bring my podcast over, but I can do it on my own. So the problem with starting one publicly and just doing it on my own is that I can't, like, it would be hard for me to make money because I just don't know much about it. It's easier financially to have it be subscribers, and that's the only way it really makes sense. So that's the easiest way I could put it, is that it all comes down to sort of the contracts of it, and it's not really how I would want it to be in a perfect world right now. But man, I really appreciate the people who listen to this every day, who subscribe to listen to us, who support us, both financially and otherwise. That means so much to me because I know it's a lot to ask. And hopefully, Matt Edwards, if you don't subscribe right now, hopefully you will. This is the free episode. We have one per week. I wish it could be more, but we think that by having the three of us and doing podcasts daily, that it's worth the subscription. And hopefully, if you don't feel that way right now, you will eventually. But I think we're building like a really cool community, both with the chat on the Patreon app, with everything, honestly. Like I just think it's really cool what's being built, and not just by us, but by the people who listen to us. T Money, who did the theme song. Like there's just Sean, who hopped in and helped us out so much with production and all that stuff, and has his own Connecticut Sun podcast. I'm forgetting the name right now. Damn it, I want to plug it. But you can look for his Connecticut Sun podcast. I'm sure he had a great episode about the game at TD Garden that they had. So just think it's a cool community. Hopefully, if you don't subscribe, you will soon. But either way, we appreciate everybody who does subscribe. We appreciate anybody who listens anyway. And if you don't subscribe, that's cool too. I understand it's not for everybody. Josh B asks, how do you feel the additions of Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, and Eric Gordon will fare with their superior athleticism when guarding the three-point shooting of Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, and Sam Hauser? So this is another one. Green-colored questions from Josh. Obviously, he does not think that Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, and Eric Gordon are likely to provide much resistance against the Celtics second unit. I don't really disagree. The one difference between the Celtics this past season and everybody else in the league was their depth. It wasn't just Jason Tatum. It wasn't just Jaylen Brown. They had the best starting five probably in the league. They had the best top six with Al Horford in the league. They lost their starting center for most of the playoffs in Kristaps Porzingis, who was supposed to be their missing piece, who was supposed to complete them, and it didn't matter. They dismantled everybody anyway. Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser, when those guys were on the court, the Celtics dismantled teams. It was just a complete, like, the level of shooting, the level of defense, the level of teamwork that they showed, nobody could match it. And so, yeah, I think Drummond, Jackson, and Gordon, probably Yabu too, probably Caleb Martin too, will have a tough time facing the Celtics. Everybody did this past season. If the Celtics are nearly the same, everybody's going to have issues with them. It won't just be Drummond, Jackson, and Gordon, because we saw Luka have problems with them. Not that he had problems necessarily with Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, or Al Horford, though those guys each had some moments guarding him, but it was more the collective that Luka had a problem with, and the collective that I think Drummond, Jackson, and Gordon will also have a tough time with. Also from Josh B, do you think Tatum will be motivated to improve and win the Finals MVP or ECF MVP this year the way Steph Curry was once upon a time? See, I think what made Steph great was that he could not care about the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Or it would have been the Western Conference Finals MVP. I don't even know if they had it when he was playing. But he did not care about the Finals MVP. He was okay with not winning that. He was okay with Kevin Durant winning that. He was okay with all the talk about him, knowing that he was secure in his own place in history. And it didn't matter to him whether, I think sometimes Steve Kerr came out and said that Kevin Durant was the best player on that team, which I actually disagreed with. I don't even know if Steve Kerr agreed with it, but he could say it because Steph was that type of guy, that type of player, that type of person, that type of teammate who genuinely did not care. We will see if Tatum cares. I think the Celtics will be better off if he does not care. I think they'll be better off if he does not worry one bit about Finals MVP. If the only thing that drives him is winning another championship. That was the difference between him this past year. That was the difference with Jaylen Brown this past year. That was why they were both so good, so impactful. It's because they did not care. And, all this talk about, are you motivated by missing Team USA? Are you motivated for Jaylen? Are you motivated for Tatum by getting limited playing time with Team USA? I think they should just be motivated to win another championship. Be motivated by the same things you were last year. Because any individual motivation, you can use it to try to get individual glory. And it's not about that. That's what made the Celtics so good. It was not about individual glory. It was never about individual glory. It was always about what's best for the team. And that's why Stephen Curry was so great. Because he knew that if he played off ball, he was going to open up everybody else. And it was going to be easier for Andre Iguodala. It was going to be easier for Kevin Durant. It was going to be easier for Draymond Green. He didn't care if the shots were his. He didn't care if the Finals MVP was his. He wanted a ring. And he was humble enough. He was secure enough. He was confident enough in himself that it was never about winning Finals MVP. Do I think in the end he loved winning it? Probably. Do I think in the end he was happy that he could take that away from people who brought that up? Probably. But I also think what separated him and what made the Warriors so great is it was never about that. And that's how the Celtics were. And that's how they need to continue being. So will he be motivated to improve? He should be motivated to improve. If he can use all that stuff to drive him to get better and still have the team first mindset, that'd be perfect. But if you set out to win Finals MVP, you're going about it the wrong way. It's about winning another championship. Just pile up championships until nobody can say a thing. Until your resume has 6 or 7 first-team All-NBAs and 3 or 4 rings, and what are they going to say then? Nothing. What else here? Do we have another one? That might be it for the questions. Pretty much it for the questions. I actually have a dinner to get to, birthday dinner with my lovely wife and our sweet little boy. And so I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. Thank you to everyone who keeps listening this deep in the summer. We'll continue to have episodes every Monday through Friday. We'll continue to be here talking about the Celtics, giving you interviews with some local reporters, some people who know the Celtics well. And we'll just be trying to make this podcast the best ever. We're going to be brainstorming soon about ideas for content for next season. And If you want to leave us ideas for what you think would help us take us to the next level, please do. Any ideas are welcome. Anything would be helpful. That's what we want to hear, how we can help you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you to the people listening on the free show, to the kids, the gods, and the legends. We appreciate your support. To everybody else, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable to sign up and listen to us every day.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Oxygen, still Poddable.